You are listening to the strongest podcast on the internet, the Gym Life Podcast with Mighty Joe and the world's most average man, Robbie Millar. It's time to flex and be entertained. The Gym Life Podcast starts right now.
All right, welcome everybody to the Gym Life Podcast, live on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock, and we're here to entertain everybody out there. And I know we should have a pretty decent audience coming in tonight, so we appreciate everybody out there who's joining us here for our live episode. We started advertising maybe a little bit of what we're going to talk about, so some of you guys know kind of what's on the agenda here tonight, and that might keep you a little more involved in what we got going on as a podcast weekly, so we're going to keep that going. What was I going to start tonight? All my Facebook groups out there. I just give a shout out to starting Strongman, the Strongman Club, and more recently we started one up as well in the Great Lakes region called the Great Lakes Strongman. So get on Facebook and check that out. Also, too, we're on IG. We're gymlife.media, of course, on our website. We've got all of our content there as well. And, of course, you can always find us on YouTube, just like you're watching now. All of our stuff goes up right after the show. And, of course, all of our interviews are up there as soon as we get those out there as well. So anything to add?
No, I know, just so everybody knows, we're having a little bit of a lag right now with the video, and I'm working on it as Joe is talking. So welcome to the show. Like, subscribe, and follow, and all that stuff. I'm going to work on this while Joe kicks us off. So
yeah, and just to be clear, this is Robbie. You wear that sweater every time, but it's a work sweater. So I want to make sure.
I wear it every time?
I want to make sure people know out there that you.
Yeah,
have
I come
more
straight
diverse...
from my new job.
Right.
Paying for this stuff, and then actually not even this, paying for my personal bills that I've amassed. And then, I don't even change. I'm going to change next week. I didn't realize I wore it every week.
Well, I noticed that when I was actually doing some editing on the videos today.
Well, now I feel like...
I was confused. I couldn't tell what episode we were on. I had to look at my shirt instead of your shirt. So anyhow, I don't mean to embarrass you on the show.
No, you're good.
We start off just pointing something out, yeah. So quick shout out to, already did that on the social media shout outs. The other housekeeping is I'm still looking for my Clash companion. Guys, seriously, you're going to tell me there's nobody out there that wants to go to Clash with me? I mean, I'm starting to take it personally. I'm going to be honest with you. It's a 14-hour drive. I'll drive most of the way. Just try to keep me up and maybe take over for a few hours. Cost you a couple $100 in gas. We have a condo there. We're sharing that with John Stacy and his girlfriend, who, of course, is Thick, Strong, and Awkward podcast. We're going to spend 3 great nights out there enjoying the Clash show and enjoying all the partying on the beach that goes along with it. I'm still looking for somebody within a couple-hour proximity of the Detroit area or even south. I thought I had somebody lined up in Ohio that I could have just stopped by and picked up on the way down. But in any case, if anybody wants to go, got 1 week left. I'm leaving next Wednesday. Reach out to me on IG. Reach out to me on Facebook. Be more than happy to take on somebody with me as a travel companion, get down there and enjoy the show with. I may just require you to take a few pictures with the camera, maybe hold a camera if I can get a chance to talk to 1 or 2 of these athletes down there just to get some footage from the show, because I'd be a fool not to do that. Right. It's going to be a great show, as you know. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Just real quick, your buddy said your shirt's perfect, G.I. Joe. So
yeah, thank you.
Shout out to your shirt.
Yeah.
Apparently, you have a better wardrobe than I do. Pam also said I do wear this every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I'm feeling a little self-conscious.
Well, I knew I shouldn't have said anything.
I
knew I should
change my clothes.
I'm sorry. I was just looking out for you. I want to make sure people didn't think you were that guy living in the street.
I probably do just live. If shortly here, I might be in the street.
Well, it's funny. I was trying to find my shirt for the day because if you look at some of our podcasts or some of you that have been following us, I try to change my T-shirt every time.
Yeah.
Now we're at like 32.
Yeah, you're just going to have to recycle.
I'm going to recycle T-shirts now. I'm going to have to start wearing them again. So this is one I got recently. And, of course, I'll try to – listen, I'm waiting to get to Clash because I know no doubt they're going to have some cool vendors there, some cool shirts already. Yeah. So I'll be picking up a few of those
this year
as well.
We'll collect a lot more gym shirts, a lot more strongman shirts
that's
for
right.
sure. So.
That's right. Yeah, especially strongman shirts, and some of these powerlifting shows as well. Speaking of which, housekeeping, USAPL live stream.
Yeah.
What's the date on that, April?
It's the 30th.
April 30th?
Yeah, we're like 2 weeks away, 2 weeks and a couple days away from the Michigan Ladies of Iron, which is the Michigan portion of the USAPL Ladies of Iron. So for those who listen to our show outside of Michigan, Michigan's not the only one doing it. It's like 14 states, 12 or 14 states, all over the country doing it the same day, all women competing. and lifting heavy shit, which, I mean, everyone should get behind. So if you have an opportunity and it's in your state, you should go and watch it. If not, you can log on to our live stream and enjoy Michigan's version of it. So
yeah, right. Absolutely. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get down there and do that.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It seems like we've had a little lag in powerlifting shows in the last
Well,
couple
it's because,
months.
what happened, I mean, at least on the USAPL side is it was the month break. So this year's schedule is going 2 months on, 1 month off.
Yeah.
So we were in the month break.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's what
Oh,
happened
so I
there.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
good.
So
Okay.
it'll be 2 months and then 1 off, and then 2 months and then 1 off, 2 months and 1
Yeah,
off.
that makes sense.
Unless
Huh?
she happens to throw an extra one in there by, popular demand. But that was actually brought up by our good friend up at Petoskey Strength and Fitness, Tammy Jo. She said, enough of the strongman shit. Let's talk about women lifting shit.
Yeah,
So,
well, we can't wait, Tammy Jo. I mean,
yeah,
we're just waiting for this shit to actually
I feel
happen,
bad
right?
because our last couple episodes were
I
very
know.
strongman heavy, and today is gonna be a little strongman heavy again, but for good reason. So
Yeah, on the
don't
back end
tune
of it,
out
for
on
sure.
us if you're a power lifter, because this is important information what we're gonna discuss. Because it does kind of correlate to powerlifting too. When we start talking about what we're going to talk about, we'll get there. We'll leave that on the table. And
Yeah, you're right. And there's a lot coming down the pipe with powerlifting. Of course, the USAPL events that we're a part of, USPA. We got the Croc event in June. We're going to talk about that. A lot of powerlifting going on with that.
Yeah.
There's one called the Battle of the Bitches out in Las Vegas. I want to get to. That's a huge show this year that's going on nationally. Okay. So we got a lot of powerlifting on the table. And you know what else we got on the table? And I said I wasn't going to get back into it. I did say I was on the fence. I reinvented my love for bodybuilding a little bit this weekend. I did. And here's why. I gave bodybuilding a bunch of shit with these people that were, these tragedies that were taking place. And, it's never fun to see and hear. And, of course, it happens in every sport. And there's guys out there screaming right now, hey, it fucking happens everywhere. I get that. We see it a lot in bodybuilding. I'm not going to rehash all that. So it got kind of a bad taste in my mouth because you hate, kind of seeing the direction that was going in for the price you pay to get there, right? Mm-hmm. But, there was a local show around here this weekend, and we had a couple friends in it. I didn't get a chance to go to the show, but I seen all the good stuff and the stuff that was coming through social media on the show. And I just look at these guys that I know from the gym that compete in bodybuilding, on the amateur level, and good amateurs at that are arguably national guys. The effort, dedication that they put into training, just like the rest of us lifting weights, right? They're all a little different, guys. We know that. Bodybuilders are listed because their commitment is different when it comes to their dieting.
They're generally most of them, especially the high-level ones, are introverted.
They're introverted guys, but you come to love and appreciate and respect what they're doing in the gym. And I lost sight of that for a minute because you see all this other shit going on.
Because
and you
the
start
product.
to get around to it.
Yeah. Not the people doing it, but the end product of it, right? And that's kind of where that comes from. Yeah, that's like we said, like when we talked about before, going back to powerlifting, that female junior that set the bench press world record with a 1-inch range of motion, taking nothing away from her. She did everything within the rules. Taking nothing away from people who compete in bodybuilding. Obviously, you love the sport. You do the sport for the reasons that you do it. We don't have a problem with that. In fact, like you said, we have a lot of friends that are bodybuilders, and I appreciate what goes into it. I would never probably want to do it myself for no other reason than I'm not that dedicated.
That's right. That's
the
right.
real reason. So that should tell you all you need to know about that sport. The people that do it are very dedicated to what they do, and you have to admire that. And our partner, Pam, is a bodybuilder, prior bodybuilder.
Sure.
So obviously we have a lot of love and respect for her. So it's nothing there, guys. Don't take any of that way. It's when we express some of these opinions, oftentimes we're talking about the sport, the organization. It's almost never an individual. I don't think you've probably ever heard us mention a single individual in a negative light on this show, and we probably won't ever do it unless they come after me personally, because then I'll do it.
Oh, I know you're waiting for that.
Yeah.
I know you're waiting for that. I think you throw little breadcrumbs out there
every once in a while. Sometimes I'm trying to bait them.
Yeah, I know you do. Yeah. Even when I tell you not to, you're still doing it. I know. Yeah, but no. In all fairness, I love these guys that competed and these gals that competed. Man, they put in a lot of hard work, and I'm banging weights with them every day in the gym. When I see them, and they're nothing short of amazing when they put their work ethic in, just like a lot of strongmen powerlifters and any other general lifting guy or strength athlete does. So much appreciation to them. But it got me thinking. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about kind of the IFBB status. The show was really small, right? I guess let me back up. The show was really small. And come to find out, a lot of these shows that are happening right now with the MPC are smaller.
Okay.
They're nowhere near the size they were last year. In large part, maybe because COVID had finished and everybody was excited to get out and show their package off and that sort of thing. but they're seeing a little bit more of it again this year. The show had like 46 competitors in it. Last year it was 100 and something competitors, and it was significantly different.
Okay.
And I asked that question.
That's a total overall categories, 46?
Overall, yeah,
Okay.
it was overall. And I asked the question to my friend. I said, "What do you think's causing that?" And what she said was social media.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking. You're right. We talked about that before the show, and social media is taking bodybuilding to an area where it never thought it would be, where you're not relying so much on that pro status or that national status to get you where you need to be on a physique level, right? Because these social media people now, these influencers or these influencer-esque type people within the fitness community, they don't need to have a status attached to them. They can show their physique off in a social media setting. They can still get the sponsors.
Yep.
They can still get all the accolades that come with it, and they don't need a pro card anymore to do that. Where in the old days, right? Not too long ago, even not too long ago in the social media setting. A few years ago. It was kind of a required or a prerequisite to kind of be on top of the game to either A, be a top national level competitor, or you were trying to get that IFBB pro status, because that was going to take you, I guess, to the promised land, right? Whatever that is.
Right.
Anymore, that's not the case.
Yeah, I think you and your friend hit it right on the head. I think social media has a big impact on that, obviously. I think probably your top level athletes and your real sponsorships are probably still only going to IFBB pros.
Elite, yeah.
Or high level influencers
Right.
are probably actually truly sponsored by these companies. A lot of these guys are sponsored, but sponsored in an affiliate way or minor sponsorships or whatever it is, clothing sponsorship, whatever it may be. But for you to make your money, that's all you really need.
That's right.
You don't have to have this full high-end sponsorship anymore when you can monetize Instagram, you can monetize Facebook, you can monetize YouTube, you can start a Patreon account for content. So what's the incentive to go get your IFBB Pro other than to say you're an IFBB Pro? Again, taking nothing away from anybody that's ever done that. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do. We know a lot of people that have done it for years and have never become a pro.
That's right.
But that's their goal. That's their goal.
Right.
That's
goal.
really all it ends up being.
That's right.
To be honest,
Yep.
Because there are other pathways to the end result that you want. You can get a good physique without being an IFBB pro. You can have people judge your physique if you just throw it up on Instagram. Everyone's going to tell you what's wrong with your body.
The biggest audience.
You
out
don't.
there in the
Yeah,
world,
you don't even have to pay to get told how ugly you
Exactly.
look, and you can make a living doing it. So what's the point of the?
Yeah, like you said, that top 1%, maybe that little bit of extra opportunity that you would get, which is arguable how you would weigh that anyhow, without having to beat up your body and go through the rigmarole of prepping for a show, the cost of a show, the investment, of course, that not just the investment of going to the show, but all the things that kind of are a prelude to that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to a lot of people anymore. Now there's all these organizations that are kind of popping up out there that provide other pathways to a pro status, right? It's a little similar to what we're going to be talking about in a little bit. These pathways now where just because I don't attach the acronym IFBB to my profile to call myself a pro, if that's all it takes, a lot of these top sort of national or middle national contenders in the NPC can go to these other organizations now and easily get their pro status, whatever that is, under what acronym, I don't know. And that's all they need, right? If they're even looking for that.
If that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, right.
If that's what and I think that's what it comes down to, right? Is now it's just like, I think before, like we talked about, to gain any of that stuff, you had to be an IFBB pro. And that's why that was the goal. And I think that's kind of falling off now. So, because you don't have to be an IFBB pro to make a living as a bodybuilder. With that being said, let me be perfectly clear. There's not a lot of people making a very good living as bodybuilders. That's still a very small percentage. But you can make an income from being a bodybuilder and never be an IFBB pro.
Yeah. There's more opportunity for sure.
So it really just going to come down to an individualistic plan. And I think the IFBB, the NPC, if they want to stay around as relevant, it's going to have to mean something more, I think.
Yeah.
Then they're going to have to adapt to this.
Yeah.
And I think they're a little bit slow to that because they were the one, right? So they didn't have to adapt.
Yeah, there's some arrogance involved in that. For
Well,
sure,
and I think it's, and it might even be to their credit. Like unknown arrogance. You know, there's like they haven't realized that this shift happened.
Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, man. Yeah. There's not always early adapters to everything. There's some people that are like, no, this is how it's worked. It's worked. It's worked. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Why?
Right.
And that's if that's what they want to do. They might just truck along being the IFBB and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, and I think ultimately they're not going anywhere. But you're right. If they want to make some adjustments and produce a better product, there's always room for that type of improvement, and that's a whole nother show. But I thought it was an interesting kind of observation, when I looked at the size of that show and thought, what is really happening here? Is there a deeper meaning than just the fact that it was a couple small shows or we're after COVID? And I think we really hit it on the head there in that conversation that, social media has provided a different avenue now for these athletes to be great athletes and be recognized for what they're doing without having to take themselves into a situation financially or other to get there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, myself included, it's less about necessarily being a pro as it is about that process anyways, right? It's about, like, for a lot of these guys, it's about having a good physique. It's about having people judge them and admire them, and there's no need for that pro status even in any organization. And like I said, there's a lot of these guys
within the lifting community. It doesn't really exist,
and everyone has everyone has their own thing. Like Nimai Delgado, he's a vegan and he looks fantastic. Super famous. Yeah. Super famous. Makes a fortune. Yeah.
You kind of find your
sponsored
shtick
by
a little
Veg
bit.
Nutrition.
Right.
Sure, and his life's paid for. Not an IFBB pro.
You really want to go out and try to find out where you fit in. Just look at the industry a little bit and go, okay, who's representing where and where are they lacking somebody to represent, right? And you can kind of find that niche or that niche a little bit. And anyhow, I thought that was a great observation, or by my friend, of course, who pointed it out to me. And again, to all these bodybuilders out there, we're in the past few weeks, if you heard me giving the sport some shit, it wasn't you at all. Of course, it was the fact that there's a lot of things that are happening that it's hard for all of us to stomach.
For sure.
Cedric McMillan passed away. I don't know if you saw that. 42 years old. That's all I'm going to say about that. Where my feelings are about that kind of stuff. So, and I don't know the entire backstory, so I don't want to go there, but most certainly it had something to do with everything we've talked about in the past few weeks.
And at the end of the day, if you want to go be an IFBB pro, go. Like, for a lot of people, that's still the pinnacle.
Yeah, and I agree. Absolutely.
And you know what? Go for it, man. Like, do you. But then there's a lot of us out there that's just not the pinnacle.
Yeah.
And
well, for me anyhow.
It's but I mean, just saying, like, maybe for them the pinnacle is, financial gain. Then there's no need to necessarily be an IFBB. So but if that's your goal, I strongly suggest, if you don't want to be an IFBB pro, go become an IFBB fucking pro.
Yeah. Listen, we all set goals, right?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, fair enough. Hey, real quick too, because I'm going to Clash next weekend.
Hey, are you going to Clash next week?
I am. Didn't I tell you that? Yeah. About 17 times here in the last hour, complaining about I got nobody to travel with. Holy shit! Here I go. Where are those box of No-Dos back from the day, right?
Yeah. Do those still exist?
I don't think
they outlaw
I think they
shit?
outlawed the caffeine pills, or whatever the fuck.
I used to go to the state fair on those. Like, I would literally the state fair would come for 10 days in the summer, and I would live on No-Dos and Mountain Dew and never leave the state fair.
It's the closest thing you got to an 8-ball back then.
Straight cocaine.
Yeah, exactly. Mountain Dew and No-Dos for sure. But no, going to Clash, of course, and I mentioned that. But there was a post the other day about the U82 Womens Clash payout, and this is worth mentioning because once again, he's getting it done. Yeah, shout out to Anthony Furman. You're getting it done. First place $12,000, second place $5,000, third place $3,000. Women's show, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about equal pay or trying to equal opportunity to make money, and we get it. There's always going to be some disparity there. That's a whole different podcast with a whole different conversation. But it's nice to see it in our sport coming around a little bit because these women are incredible and they're doing some fucking great things. I'm a huge fan of the women's side of the sport in large part, maybe a little bit more than the men, because they just are offering a lot more. They're offering a lot more when it comes to what they're getting done right now.
There's a lot more progression happening.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot more progression happening and coming in the women's division, for sure. So it's a very exciting time to be a women's athlete in strength sports. I will touch on the equal pay thing real quickly.
Yeah.
I think strongman, powerlifting, if we have a paid structure there, which we do with some pro series things, has a unique opportunity to ensure that the men and women are paid the same. Because they can compete at the same time. So the revenue can be equally dispersed, and it should be. because you have no way to know if you're not going to poll people. Did you come here to watch the men or the women? Like that's horseshit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's hard to do that in other sports. You can't have male and female soccer playing at the same time in the same venue, you know. So
it's
easier for them to go, well, we only generate this much revenue.
Right.
But in strength sports, we have a unique opportunity to ensure that they're paid the same, and they absolutely should be.
Yeah.
But that's all I'm going to say about that.
No, that's a great point too. I love that. You're absolutely right. We'll maybe bring that up in another show and have a deeper discussion about that, because it is very unique to our community. It really is. So I'd love to see that. That was awesome to see, and I'm sure the women.
And we're actually going to come back around to that a little bit later.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will. Actually, we'll come back around to it in about 30 seconds.
Here in about a minute, yeah.
Yeah, because it really kind of leads into kind of what we're talking about a little bit. You know, in the past week, probably the past week in particular, I've talked to several people, and they ask questions, and these amateurs will get a hold of me on a forum or just on our IG or something. You know, not that we're the experts, because we're not. I actually just reach out to people and get information and pass it along here a lot of times to educate ourselves a little bit.
Sure.
So a lot of the questions are always, what are the pathways to becoming a pro? And that's on everybody's mind, right? And we talk about that. Only really 1% of the guys really apply to that. But it's a question that a lot of guys, even on an amateur level, want to know, because ultimately that, again, could be their goal someday. That's what they're working towards. And God bless them. We should all set these goals out there, put these, things out of our reach a little bit that make us go after them and try to get them. So those are always good questions, and questions that I had as well, like, well, what is it, the pathways to become these pros?
Sure.
And then the other questions would lead into, what's the difference between Strongman Corp and USS, right? That's a big one you hear a lot of, because guys want to compete in one or the other. They're only able to compete in one and maybe not in the other. Is there any advantage or disadvantage to competing? And of course, on this show, we don't pull any punches. We like to just give our opinions. So here we go.
That we will do.
Here we go. Yeah, so real quick. So Strongman Corp, I reached out to one of their people today and a couple of their pro athletes and had some conversations with them. If you didn't know, and a lot of strong men and women do out there, but if you didn't and you're into the sport and you're competing in the sport now and are curious what pathways are available through Strongman Corp, here they are. So Strongman Corp has got America's Strongest Man, which is arguably kind of a nice title to have. And the show itself, we can talk about that, over the years has been watered down a bit to compare it was years ago, but it's coming back around, I think. The Strongman Corp ASM, or America's Strongest Man, is one pathway to the Arnold. That's on the big stage, right? When we see these guys competing with the Hummer tire deadlift, and you guys know what we're talking about on the big stage, the super heavyweight guys. They have a spot available for the ASM winner to compete at the Arnold.
In the super heavyweight.
In the super heavyweight class.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. The Arnold Pro representation is from the ASM as far as the Strongman Corp is concerned.
Okay.
The Arnold Pro Women's, or Arnold Pro in general, are 20%. I'm sorry, the Arnold Amateur is 20% of the field at Strongman Corp Nationals.
Okay.
Right? And then, of course, they also throw the Arnold Pro classes, which are the other classes, which, of course, Hannah Lindsay, some of our people that we interviewed this year were a part of. And, of course, that's open to SC pros, right? Your pro status through Strongman Corporation, which is available through top 3 places at Nationals, or winning the Arnold Amateur. So if you qualify at Nationals to be that top 20%, stay with me here.
Yep.
You can then qualify to be a part of the Arnold Amateur.
Right.
And then still have an opportunity to win your pro card there if you miss it at Nationals.
Okay.
There's another way you can win your pro card, and I didn't ask this today, but I'm 99% confident. Strongman Corp offers, of course, their Platinum Plus shows, and I think there's 4 of them a year. Maybe 4, 3 to 5, 3 to 6, but 4, I think.
Okay.
The Platinum Plus shows are pro weight, while winner gets their pro card. And I'm not sure about exactly in all the weight classes, but I can tell you the super heavyweight class does. So Strongman Corp is geared towards, well, we said it, the super heavyweight class and I'm taking nothing away from all these other pros competing at Strongman, both men and women, but as we see it in the United States, Strongman Corp is more associated with that super heavyweight class, be with the Arnold, in particular. Right, and with America's Strongest Man.
Man. Okay.
They don't have any affiliation with Giants anymore, and some guys say, well, they deal with Giants. It just so happens their athletes go to Giants, because a lot of the pro athletes that we see out there that are super heavyweights have been coming through Strongman Corp.
Right, but Giants is an invite.
But they're an invite. That's right. They're not. So we take it for granted, I think, as the spectators when we're watching it, when we see a guy like Trey Mitchell going to it, or we see a guy like Evan Singleton this year going to it. Well, he must have got that. He must have qualified somehow. No, he got an invite. when you're a badass and when you're at that level, and you're bringing a crowd and you're bringing, they're gonna find you.
Yep.
Giants will find you and you'll be there. So that's a separate entity of its own. Now USS, when you're talking about a pathway, and this has kind of sort of been the argument between some teams out there, right? Some groups,
Some camps.
Let's call them camps. Why would I compete at USS if they don't offer the same pathways for my top level athletes, right? Because as an organization, USS is a great amateur organization, just like Strongman Corp. I would argue they're even a little bit better in that sense. Strongman Corp is a great opportunity for these high echelon, maybe super heavyweight athletes. But as a whole, I like USS maybe a little bit more with their amateur opportunities because they have a ton of amateur shows. It seems to me they're more geared towards that, fostering the amateur class a bit more. Obviously, we look at their nationals, which we talked about last week, and they have 600 people competing in it. Whether that's too much or not, maybe a bit watered down, but we had that conversation last week. But just goes to show you how many people are competing at USS. And for USS when you see that size of nationals. USS has a limited opportunity for pro in general. I think the only thing they're affiliated with right now, outside of maybe an informal arrangement with Strongman's Champion League, is of course Anthony's 105. Now the 3 top national contenders for USS are getting an invite to Clash on the Coast to compete there at the 105 class. Right. As far as where the super heavyweights fall in USS, again, we can see where the argument comes from because there really is no pathway for the super heavyweights, the high-end super heavyweights. Of course, we're talking about these 1% guys out there to compete, sort of using that as a pathway from USS into any of these other opportunities that I know of. And I've talked to a few people that are pretty versed in the USS, and they don't know either. So what happens is USS, of course, is trying to develop their USS World League, right, or their worlds, which is USS athletes. We're of course a part of that. This is one Great Lakes Strongest Man. You know what I'm talking about. Costin Sutton got a hold of me today on the group, and he said, "So what's the over/under on you guys saying Great Lakes Strongest Man today?" See, that's 2.
There's 2.
That's 2.
Right,
and I shouldn't even count that one. But I said 3, so I've only got one more time to say it now. Then I'm gonna hit it, so it's a push both ways. All right. But in any case, USS has got their worlds, of course, which is USF athletes, as I've been told, which is the top 3 finishers, podium finishers in the past at these USS worlds, which hasn't been around that long. So I want you to think about the pool of athletes now, right? Who do you get to choose from? Right. And then, of course, the top 3 finishers at nationals. Well, if in fact there is no real pro card, as talking to Willie a couple months ago, we call it pro status, sort of, not really sort of beating around the bush, right? Because what is a pro card? We know it's a fictional thing in the sport. Right. There's not a huge pool of athletes that have an opportunity with pathways to compete at a pro level in USS without creating some type of invite, right? Or maybe an invite, or however they want to work it out with other organizations, which sadly does not exist. So now when USS tries to put on a pro show, they're a little bit, in my opinion, again, behind the 8 ball because they don't have a large pool of athletes to choose from, unlike Strongman Corp, which has been around considerably longer and also has a better pathway for specifically super heavyweight class.
Yeah, so I think the problem lies in that both of these organizations, however this gets worked out, and we'll talk about a couple different things here, need to define what it means to be a pro. Like, define it. There needs to be a definitive benefit to be getting your pro card or your pro status or whatever it is. Because from what I just heard was that I essentially could qualify and compete in what I consider the largest show in the United States, and that's the Arnold. As an amateur.
Essentially, yes.
So what does it mean to be a pro in strongman?
Well, let's back that up. Let's make sure we get your information.
Listen,
right. Arnold amateur, right? The Arnold amateur.
But if I win that, I can compete in the Arnold Pro.
Well, you're a pro that compete at ASM that can then go compete technically at the Arnold Pro. Yes.
So as a pro, you have 2 events that you can compete at that are pros.
That are pro events. That's right.
So what it means to be a pro is there's 2 events I can go compete at.
Right. And with the hopes
that
Giant sees you and says, "Can you come compete for us?"
So that's the problem that I see right now. The problem I see is that there's no real benefit to being a pro in the United States as a strongman. So I think what happens is we end up with a lot of great people who are very happy not spending the extra money to go for this pro status that doesn't benefit them. And they compete in these larger, even maybe, or some smaller, local, regional type shows. And that's where USS kind of shines, is those people. Those people that really have no desire to be a pro or very little,
right,
at least in the super heavyweight side. And they will happily travel around their region and compete against these guys at a high level in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Because there's no actual benefit to becoming a pro for them.
Right.
And even in the Strongman Corp side, there's no benefit to becoming a pro at 105 kilograms.
That's right.
So the problem I see right now is we have two organizations that don't have a definitive reason to be a pro. One maybe has a little edge because you have the Arnold.
With a certain class.
An American Strongman.
Yeah, okay,
With a certain
right,
class.
yep.
You have a little edge.
Yep.
But overall, we don't have a definitive reason to be a pro. And we have a fractured competition pool.
That's right.
Because right now...
Which isn't that big to begin with.
Which isn't that big
Right,
to begin with.
yeah.
But right now, you can't tell me the best in the world are competing at Arnold's.
No.
In the amateur or the pro division.
Right.
Because there's a whole group of strong motherfuckers in USS that don't care to do that stuff because they get 2 shows a year.
That's right.
So there needs to be a benefit.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is where we come down to what Anthony's doing.
Right.
I think the benefit is paying these guys in some way, shape, or form, paying these high-level athletes to be a pro. And
Willie's trying to do that. I don't know the particulars on that. Nobody really does that.
But
I've
all the
talked to.
shows should be that.
That's right.
What I'm saying is, if you're going to be a pro and you're going to say, okay, we've got 100 pro strongmen in our organization, they should have 5-6 shows a year they can go and battle it out for cold, hard cash.
Right.
And I think the only way to do that is to make 5 or 6 shows a year that, regardless of organization,
a collaboration
has, these are the 6 shows that are our United States pro strongman shows. And if you don't want to say United States because of the weird fucking fight between you two, call it American Strongman shows. These are our 6 shows, and here's how both of you guys can get to them. And if you win these 6 shows, here's the money you're going to win.
Right.
Watch what happens to the competition. Then, and only then, will we have one more Brian Shaw or Martins Lisis in this country to compete and put up a fight against these UK guys who, honestly, besides Martins and Brian Shaw, are dominating the fuck out of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
the
just
Europeans
my
in
opinion.
general. Yeah. It's one way of getting there, right? Okay, so let's back up. So we talk about Anthony and he's got what he's doing for Clash, which is great because the whole idea behind that was to give opportunity to athletes that weren't super heavyweights, right? Plain and simple. He'll tell you the same thing. He was a 105 guy. He had no opportunity ever to be a pro, right? Mm-hmm. To compete at a high level and actually make a little bit of money doing it instead of paying out the ass for it and getting no light shined on the amount of work that these guys are putting in at that level, right? So he's taking care of that. Boy, he's done it in a big way.
Sure.
There's no doubt about it. On every class. I just told you how much money these girls are getting paid.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. USS and Strongman Corporation, let's take a step back and look, right? Because that's what's happening. And this is if this doesn't light a fire underneath your ass, wait till 1 or 2 more Anthonys come along.
Yeah.
Because if they don't figure it out soon, another 1 or 2 guys is going to come along with a good idea and go, well, fuck, there's a hole in the system here.
Yeah.
I'm going to plug it. I'm going to make it
That's
work.
all it's going to take. Because right now we have OSG, which is non-affiliated.
Non-affiliated.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can qualify for OSG.
Good.
Okay.
Yep.
We have the Clash series.
That's right.
Which is a little bit affiliated with
Little
USS,
bit.
but I can qualify for Clash.
Yeah, and
regardless.
I think, and that affiliation, in my opinion, and I'm not going to put words in either of their mouths.
Yes.
That's just that's people working together.
But I can go qualify for Clash.
Sure, you could.
Okay.
Yep.
It's going to take 2 more shows like that. 2 more, maybe 3, and then we got our 5 high-level shows, and these organizations are going to be just an afterthought. Yeah. Because why would I spend my $150 a year, $200 a year to compete at my local shows when I think I'm good enough to compete with the best of the best, and here's 5 ways I can do it that I don't need you for?
That's right.
So both of these organizations really need to get on their horse and, like the bodybuilding, figure it out or they're going to get ran the fuck over.
Yeah, I agree. Because when you look at OSG and the opportunity to get there and look at what Anthony's doing, the opportunity to get there, I don't ever have to do an amateur show.
No.
And if I did, I could certainly go to an amateur show that's not affiliated.
Non-affiliated.
And listen, I got news for you. You know, the elephant in the room, that's happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's shows around that I've seen and heard of already that are affiliated with nobody because they don't want to pay the $500 or $600 or whatever it is to be affiliated when there's zero opportunity that goes along with that.
There's no benefit.
And I will say this, and I'm not knocking either organization because they know where their holes are. But I'll tell you out right now, if you're out there going, well, what's wrong with either of these organizations? If I was a promoter and I was promoting for either of these organizations right now, I'd have a few issues, of course. If I'm going to pay a lot of money to throw a show, I expect that I'm going to get something in return. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get some type of assistance with sponsors, some type of, and again, maybe if this is happening at a small level, it's not that noticeable, at least with the people that I've spoke with.
Right.
Or in fact, they're going to give me the opportunity to, get better athletes or a pathway for better athletes, of course. That way I can promote that. And let's just talk on the simplest levels, like a social media level, right?
Sure.
Listen, I'm Strongman Corp and USS guy on all my social media platforms. I can't tell you how often I don't see shit posted about these shows that are buying into these organizations that are looking for that love and support.
Right.
I got news for both organizations. Hire a social media manager and start taking advantage of what's out there. Fuck's sake, if I can learn it, anybody can learn it.
Right.
So you're right. I mean, but let me also say this, and I don't want to come off as a hater because I'm not trying to be a hater.
No.
I'm a lover because I love the sport.
And that's exactly what this is.
And that's where this rage or this little bit of anger comes from, is that we need to start seeing a bit more collaboration going on. We need to see a little bit of, let's not throw OSG Southwest Regional Qualifier the same day as USS Nationals.
Right.
We brought that up. That's bullshit. It should never happen. We should never see a pool of athletes over here and a pool of athletes over here that arguably should be competing with one another, but they can't because of, tribalism of some sort.
I don't even think it's tribalism. I think a lot of it comes down to, especially like on even some of your bigger local guys are parts of both organization or a part of both organizations, because for us, we tend to compete regionally, right? Because there's no other than the Arnold, which I'm probably not going to qualify for.
Guess not.
I'm not talking me. I'm just saying in general, right? Right? For the majority of the people competing, right? I'm definitely not going to qualify for. But I'm saying there's no, so they have one thing that they can shoot for, or not even the Arnold, because if they're not affiliated with OSG, they can't get to the Arnold. So, okay, so maybe, or OSG, right? They can qualify for OSG. But that's a long ways away from a lot of people in this country, right? So we compete on a regional level, usually. So a lot of us are members of both organizations already anyways. Yeah. So never should the biggest shows of either of those organizations cross over, because now you're making me decide as an athlete where I want to go. And what does it boil down to? Maybe who's going, what's there, what's not, what you're offering. And I say we just forget all this stuff, like, and go to a system that, like I just said, is 4, 5, 6 high-level shows both organizations can qualify for. And this is what's going to happen. Motherfucking Anthony's doing this. I'm telling you, Anthony's doing this. He's going to have the Clash. And Anthony's going to go, this is how any motherfucker wants to come qualifies. You throw this show at these weights, and your top 3 will qualify. And the Clash series is going to be a big series. And these guys just need to notice this stuff, and both of them are going to fall to an amateur level organization, because somebody like Anthony, who loves the sport, sees the holes in the sport, pays their athletes, pays their women, is going to dominate both of them.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm okay with it if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, and listen, so now you look at that as kind of like, you got that I guess you call it sort of that median at the top, right?
Yeah, they're going to be giants live.
Yeah, which is okay. Listen, if Strongman Corp and USS want to be a feeder corporations into that entity, if they don't want to figure it out on their own, then God bless them.
Sure.
I mean, it makes complete sense to me. Why not?
Why not?
Hey, if that's the marriage counselor at the top, hey, I said it. Elephant in the room. I said it. I get it. I know I'm not welcome at any fucking show now.
Now we are kicked out.
But listen, if that's that person at the top, then so fucking be it.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, because this has got to get to a point where it makes sense to these athletes. And I get it. 99% of our athletes are guys that just love to throw around fucking weight.
Yeah.
But we're all fans of the sport. And we all want to see the best competing
We talk
at these
about
competitions.
it every time.
Every fucking time.
Every time. And that's the way the sport grows. We get
Yeah.
the best of the best of the best, always competing at 5, 6, 7 shows a year. How do you do that? Here's how we do that. And then the sport grows exponentially.
Yep.
There's no more of this fighting over whether I need to be Strongman Corp or USS to get to this, to get to that, and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
If you want to have your own special little spin-off thing, like the Arnold wants to create their own Arnold thing to qualify for the Arnold, by all means do that, and people that want to qualify will jump in and do those things.
Right.
But as a high level, if we want to delineate a professional strongman in the United States,
Right.
there needs to be 6 professional shows where these motherfuckers can get paid to do what they do, and there needs to be a pathway for everybody down at the bottom to get there. I don't care if it's strongman, USS, unaffiliated, doesn't fucking matter.
No, it doesn't. You know how they do it over in Europe?
How?
They don't.
Hey!
It doesn't exist. There's no organization over there that's pushing amateur strongman. They just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Because they love to do it.
It's a great
And they
thing.
throw shows, and there's a lot of guys involved in it. And what kind of athletes is that producing? It's producing
The best.
The best. That's
the
right.
best.
The best.
Because there's no barrier
No,
to
they
performing.
all can qualify for all this shit.
Yeah.
you
And
know?
then Giants Live goes, hey,
I'll
look,
take
you
you.
strong
I'll take you.
motherfucker.
I'll
strong
take you.
motherfucker.
Yeah, that's right.
And it
they're-
works.
they're
And that's why
dominating.
we get dominated. Because
right.
there's no barrier to the sport.
Yep.
And anytime we can, of course, these entities, let's make no bones about it, they're businesses. And they're in it to make money.
Well,
and
that's
if they
right.
weren't,
Yeah.
they would lose money, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
and I get it.
They
I'm all
got to
for
make
it.
money.
I don't think anybody has a problem with that.
I don't think so either.
As long as the
But
things
it
are getting
can't
done. I'm not going to
get
keep buying the
in the
same
way.
dinner when my steak's not
Right.
done the way I want it cooked.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
That's exactly what it is. It can't get in the way. You can make money and be a business, but you can't get in the way of competition.
That's right.
In my mind.
That's right.
And we've talked about this in powerlifting. Like I said, it'll come back around to that too. There's 100 powerlifting organizations, and what does it mean to get? And everyone's got their own little pro series and this and that and the other thing, and it's just like, which is fine. Powerlifting's never going to be a mainstream sport. Let's be honest. But strongman can.
Yes.
It's entertaining enough. It had been in the past, and these barriers got in the way.
Yeah.
And it fell down.
Yeah.
And we need to build it back up, and this is how we do it.
Yeah, and just a quick note on powerlifting too. You know, there are now these organizations coming up that are saying, I don't give a fuck who you're affiliated with. They're invitationals for the best of the best.
Yes.
You know, but these groups provide that information pretty well. With our powerlifting, it's obvious, right? Totals make that an obvious nature.
Totals is easy.
Right.
And powerlifting has that advantage.
Right.
I mean, weight's weight.
Weight's
Totals
weight.
totals.
Weight's weight.
I can look at
Right.
I can look at openpowerlifting.org right now and tell you the best in any fucking class,
That's right.
category,
That's right.
affiliation.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Whether
matter.
you showed up or not.
They're ranked there.
The best guy didn't show up.
They're ranked
Yes.
there.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at. So in order to achieve that in strongman, which we can't because it doesn't work like that,
Right.
the formula is not
It's
the
different.
same.
Yep.
You have to get these guys competing
In the
against
room.
one
You
another.
gotta get
That's
them in the
right.
room.
Period.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard because the athlete pool's not that big.
No, and that's this, and
It's
that really is the
not.
fragile nature of it as well. I think you got to look at the other end of that, right? We're a niche sport still, despite the growing nature of this sport and how big it's gotten over the last 10 or 15 years. Again, we're vulnerable
Yeah.
to bad shit happening. Well, we're kind of in it a little bit, in my opinion.
Kind of-
outside of some of the good shit
Sure.
like Anthony and stuff that's taken place. But yeah, I think, listen, if anything, guys, this should bring up conversation with you, with your guys you train with the team and clubs you're a part of.
Sure.
Because, you know, I'm not suggesting we band together in any way, shape, or form other than demanding good competition.
You don't want to pick at USS.
I'm not going to
or
pick at
Strongman
USS. I'm
Corp.
not going to pick
Right.
Strongman Corp.
Yeah.
That's not what this is about. I'm not even hating on them, despite maybe some of the the volume there. I'm not. It's just I think we all see the elephant in the room here, and when we see good things happening in the sport, like what Clash is doing, and we also see that there's pathways now, like with OSG and their regional qualifiers and Clash and his qualifiers. Again, if you don't do something quick, what's the point of having any amateur organization if all I need to do is look at these shows that offer qualifiers and I don't have to do anything but bring my ass there and get the job done?
Especially since, and this is no stone thrown at anyone individually, but especially since on the amateur level side of things, you don't get a lot of support from them anyways.
No, you don't.
So you might want to start thinking as a promoter, what do I need them for?
Let's not have the conversation take over, because that's another thing that we wanted to talk about.
If there's other pathways to the biggest shows in the world, what do I need an organization for?
Right.
What are they doing for me?
Right.
Telling me what the weight should be? I can fucking YouTube that.
Right. And listen, if I need to get strongmen to compete, I can go to the strongman groups on Facebook for that.
Right.
I mean,
that's
it ain't hard reaching out to these guys and finding them.
So I think it's time. My point is I think it's time for these organizations to go, all right, here, we got to do something. We got to make this clear pathway for everybody. Get the best in the room.
Let's meet at the table.
And
let's
pay these
something.
motherfuckers.
Let's figure it out.
Yep.
Let's not be competing entities. Let's figure out how to do this collectively at the table to get this done the best way for everybody.
Imagine just sitting down and going, and one day, imagine the social media. One day, those two sit down at a table and go, let's create a super show. Let's create a way.
Can I film that? I would love to film.
Let's create a way that we get my best athletes to compete against your best athletes at the top. And
let's create some.
And let's pay them $25,000.
Right.
Imagine what would happen. Yeah. It would explode. It would absolutely explode. So you're not only hurting the athletes, you're kind of hurting the organization.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's hope maybe they're both thinking that way. I highly doubt it. Let's
hope. It is what it is. Again, not bitching, not complaining about anybody individually. It's just it comes from a love of the sport and wanting to see it grow, wanting to get the best and the best, and tired of getting dominated by Europe.
Yeah, that too, right? USA versus the world. Yeah. Well, they're doing that this year, the USA. But anyhow, and listen, I'm not knocking our heavyweights.
We got some good ones.
Hey, listen, we beat Russia in '84, I think it was. So what was it? '81, was it?
The Miracle on Ice?
Yeah, the Miracle on Ice. What was that?
I think it was '81.
81, okay. It was in the '80s. I'm kidding, guys. Of course, we have a lot of greats.
We have a lot of greats.
We do, but it'd be nice to see them all compete at that level at the same time. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, listen, that was a percentage of what we could have talked about when it comes to those organizations and the love for our sport. Tammy Jo, I promise powerlifting is coming your way. We have a lot going on with powerlifting here in the next couple months. We can't wait to share that with everybody. We also have a lot of bodybuilding going on. I have a couple IFBB pros coming right into studio to talk about some good stuff about bodybuilding, which does exist, guys. I admit, I love bodybuilding. The athletes that compete in it, of course. And, of course, I'll be at Clash next week. So we're not going to do a show on Wednesday next week because I'll be in transit.
Hiatus.
Yeah, so it'll be
maybe I'll just come on and do a solo show.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Don't let me know.
Tune in to hear me rant.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we'll get out a couple interviews I have lined up next week before I leave. I'll get those launched out. And then, of course, when I get back, we'll have a whole shit ton of fun stuff to talk about with Clash. Yeah. All the great people I'm loving for the first time to meet when I get out there, and some people that I can't wait to see for the first time, although I feel like we're great friends already. Yeah. So, in any case, thanks for joining us tonight. Episode number 32. Live on Wednesday night, except for next Wednesday. Stay strong, everybody.